Hi everyone, so today's video is all about how I installed the pair of double gates that I made 3 weeks ago. I'll leave a link to that video below, and I'm showing you how I installed it into a concrete post at my house. So keep on watching if you want to learn how I did it. So before I installed them, I wanted to make sure I stained them first so it wasn't so tricky later. So here's me propping up the first half of the new one I made on the old gates. But instead of installing them at the back of the house, the plan was to fit them just behind the front door. And to speed up the process, I used my Wagner fence and decking sprayer. November really isn't the best time to be doing this kind of work, but we needed it up and protect it from the elements. But then I started worrying whether it was going to dry on time, so I stupidly took the excess off with a rag. Don't do it, because I decided to leave it on my second one and it was fine. So once I'd painted most of it, it was time to start installing my posts and my top brace. And this was the bit I was most scared of because I was fixing it between a concrete fence post and our house. But I bought an extra fence post just in case I broke it. So instead of lining up my side posts and top brace against where they needed to be, I decided to build them on the floor first. But just make sure that the good sides are facing inwards. So I pre-drilled a couple of holes first. And then rested them on something flat like some patio slabs. Then aligned them up, made sure they were perfectly square with a speed square, and screwed them together with some long screws. Then we place everything in situ. No, nothing is fixed at the minute. This is just like a dry lay. But we trapped it as high as we could because we needed a gap underneath to allow for the gravel we haven't installed yet. And obviously you don't want it sitting on the ground to rot. And we used a spirit level on top to gauge whether it was level or not. And to make sure we had the posts where we wanted, we wedged some breeze blocks under there. And obviously we checked the spirit level again. Then to fix the wooden post to the concrete post, my dad recommended using a 5.5mm drill bit, and he actually lent me this Hilti hammer drill, or whatever it's called, and told me to pre-drill a hole dead centre of the post to avoid any iron inside. So I'll try and leave links to the tools that I'm using below, but I'm sure a hammer drill would have worked fine, but ours actually broke, so we no longer had one. And then my dad gave me some spack screws to screw in, so I didn't actually have to use any sort of plugs. But I was worried that I'd drilled in the wrong place because I couldn't get my screw in. But then after a quick call to my dad, he just recommended using a slightly bigger drill bit. Now, normally I would have done that, but because I knew iron was inside, it made me question myself. So he said it happens to him all the time, and sometimes there's just a little pebble or something inside there, and that spack screw just can't cut through. So once I'd done that, it was fine. And although we didn't show it, we repeated that in the brickwork of the house. Yes. Yep. Finally. Woo. And the day I actually made the gate at my dad's woodyard a few weeks ago, he gave me these really strong gate hinges. Now I originally gave myself a 5mm allowance, but after a test later we realised it needed to be 15mm. But I lined everything up and screwed it in. And this definitely is a two-man job, and we used more breeze blocks to prop up the first gate door. And then while my fiance was holding the door, I slotted the hinge in and screwed it to the back side of the post. And repeated that for the bottom hinge. And then for the last door, we made sure it was all in line and straight and screwed those hinges in as well. Then it was time to add a stopper piece, and I made sure that was all in line as well and fixed in place with the screwdriver. And my dad also reminded me about the squares on the hinges so I could fix a coach bolt in. So I pre-drilled some holes exactly the same thickness of a coach bolt, malleted it in and fixed on the other side. But I later decided to remove them all and put a washer either end of them and then put the nut in place. These are actually hex bolts and I didn't want them to cut through the wood, but I plan to trim the excess off later. Then to make the gate more secure, I wanted to add a drop bolt at the top. This was to stop it being pushed open, and the top brace wasn't wide enough for a bolt to go through. So I clamped 2 pieces of stud work dead centre to the top, and they were 30 centimetres each. And after pre-drilling some holes, I fixed them into place with some long screws. But then I needed to add another piece of stud work on the back for the drop bolt to attach to. So after I removed the stopper, I clamped that piece of stud work in place and screwed it from the front, but I knew these screws wouldn't be seen because the stopper's going to be hiding it. Then it got really dark, so I had to use this head torch, and I screwed one of the brackets of the drop bolts in place and then threaded the drop bolt through to position it into place, and then squared up the gate so I could draw a pen mark in where I was going to drill a hole through. And to make that cut, I used this 20mm hole saw from Erbauer, and I made a hole as deep as the hole saw bit, which was perfect for this. Yeah, I think that's enough. And what also comes with the drop bolt is this little mount piece which tidies it up a bit, and I just attach that around the hole, and then I position the bolt into place in the closed position, and then screwed in the bottom stopper piece. And that gate was going nowhere. So I've just got some staining to do on that, but at least the screws are on this side, not the front, and it's secure. I just need a lock for it now. So I'm extremely grateful now for the privacy, but yeah, I'm very, very pleased. I've still got a little bit more staining to do, just these new additions, and the fact that I've moved the stopper slightly over, I wasn't quite happy with it, and I've just got to build that up, but it's so cold. In fact, we woke up to snow this morning, so yeah, I don't think it's going to be drying so quickly, so I just need to top that up over the next few days. So if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in my next one. Thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, and I forgot to say that I'm probably going to be adding a drop bolt at the bottom as well, with a steel pipe cemented into the ground. But at the moment, I feel like the top one is quite sturdy, and I do need to cut off the excess coach bolts at the back with an angle grinder. So very simple jobs.